Welcome aboard, Skylark Outdoors here, and today we are reviewing and taking you on a tour of the Jeanneau Sun Odyssey 410 sailboat, which we've got right here. Now, this is a very popular boat for both personal cruising as well as charter fleets. So in the rear, you've got two helms there, so you can be on either side, which is great for visibility. You've got a nice big cockpit, and then as you go down, we've got our cabin area here and all of the accoutrements. You've got refrigeration freezer, you've got an oven as well as a cooktop, sink, and then plenty of seating. What's nice about this is that a lot of boats at this size will only have the bench seating. This has the bench seating and then the bench on the other side, so you can fold that down. And then they've made it so the mast in how it steps to the hull doesn't take up a lot of space, where a lot of times that's further aft in the cabin. Here you've got a stateroom up in the front with your head and shower, sink, nicely appointed there. And then I love the wood colors in this on the inside. Looks really nice and fairly spacious. I'm 6'5" and able to walk around here without hitting my head too much. There's a couple pinch points, but other than that, pretty good. And then you've got your cooktop over here, refrigeration, freezer, storage on a boat. It seems like you can never have too much storage. You've got some speakers there. They've even got some drinks in there right now. For this one was in transit. And then you can see refrigeration, cooler as well as freezer, and then a nice little sink here. And then some area right there to kind of like put utensils and cooking stuff as you're cooking. A little navigation station off there on the port side, and then you've got a berth back here. Definitely can fit one person. Two people would be pretty tight unless it's two smaller people. And then this berth's a little bit wider on this side. You can fit one easily, and two normal people, it's just going to be cozy there. And then you have a rear head as well for the people in the aft cabin, and shower in here, and mirrors, some storage, all kinds of stuff. But overall, fairly big heads for this size of boat. Now, this is a 410. So overall length is 40 feet and 6 inches. And as we go around here, you can see you've got in the back here bench seating on either side of a table. So you've got plenty of space to entertain. You've got your starboard helm, and you then have a port helm. You've got all your lines running back to a winch right here. So a lot of different options what you can do with those winches, but you've got everything so that you can control those pretty much from the cockpit. And then features in terms of this one is in-mast furling, which you can see the sail there is furled inside, and then of course a roller furler. So all those are going to make it much easier for a person to single-hand this or double-hand it when you've got self-furling sails that you can just use the winch to furl those, and then vangs, everything else, just like a typical sailboat rigging that you would find. But I would say the in-mast furling as well as the roller furling are going to make your life a lot easier on any sailboat. So if you can get those options, those are always something that I recommend. Now, in-mast furling, you just got to kind of get used to it, know some of the things that you need to be aware of so that you don't jam anything up. But once you've got a hang of that and can make sure that you're not having problems, maintain it, do whatever you need there, it really is a nice option. Both the roller furler and in-mast furling is going to make your life easier to single-hand it or double-hand it or do whatever. And reducing the cognitive load while you're sailing and making things easier, whether you're sailing or motorboating, is always really nice. And I find that it makes you safer, and you're typically going to have more appropriate sail area out because you can do it. And then sometimes when you're on a boat, maybe you just want ease of use. Maybe you've got people that aren't really that into sailing, but you just want to take them out, show them a good time. It's really easy when you have a roller furler or just a self-furling main or in-mast furling, that you could just put one sail up real quick, just to have a nice cruise. You don't have to get the most speed out of it or anything as possible, but just really easily have a nice low-stress cruise with a little bit of sail out, depending on the wind conditions, and you can always adjust that pretty easily. And I think that's what's really nice about either boom furling sail or mast furling sail or a roller furler. You're going to find that you use those so much more than you think. And then all the winching and all the lines are properly outfitted like you would expect on a boat of this size. So the Jeanneau Sun Odyssey 410 is a lineup of boats in their Sun Odyssey lineup. They have a 410, a 440, and then a 490. So approximately, this one's approximately 41 feet, the 440 is 44 feet, and the 490 is 49 feet. And pretty much those three are very similar in terms of layout. They're just bigger versions of the 410 for the most part. There's a couple extra features and a little bit different size, but overall pretty similar. The Jeanneau 410 you can get with either 2 or 3 cabins. It's got a 40-foot 6-inch overall length, but a 39-foot and 4-inch hull length. So you've got the stays up in front, as well as ladders, swim platform, all that stuff, and the pulpit up in the front that give it just like a little bit extra length, where you've got the anchor and everything stored. And then you've got a 13-foot one beam, so this is a nice beamy boat, and you can feel that inside the boat when you're in there. If you go up to the 44, I believe it's a 14-foot one beam, so it's a whole foot wider. But 13 feet still is nice wide, because typically in power boats you're going to see most power boats of this size are going to be like 12 foot, some are going to be 10 foot 6, some are going to be 11, and then once you go down in size, they're going to be typically even more narrow than that, and that's because those are a lot of times designed to be trailered, where this is really not going to be trailered, except for maybe some transport to get it to its original destination. So they're not as concerned about the beaminess on a sailboat typically. 17,417 pounds. It's got a 7-foot draft, and then it has 140-gallon water capacity. There's actually 2 tanks. It's broken up in between those, and you've got 53 gallons of gas. And then you can have a layout of either 2 cabins or 3 cabins. This one is the 3-cabin model. So you've got a cabin up in the bow, and then you've got 2 stern cabins, starboard and port, and then you can have a Yanmar 40 horsepower or 45 horsepower. Really not going to be too much difference there. Either engine's going to be fine with whatever you choose to go with. But overall, this is going to compare in terms of size and a lot of features to like a Beneteau in the 40-foot to 43-foot range. Having been on both the Beneteau and the Jeanneau, they both are very similar in a lot of ways in layout. I will say the galley is laid out a little bit different in the Jeanneau, and I think I like the kind of like extra seating in the Jeanneau. And for whatever reason in the Beneteau, it always seems like the stepping of the mast is further back within the hull, or just how it's laid out, and it seems like you're kind of like moving around it more. Whereas this one, the stepping of the mast, how it goes through to the hull, is more near that forward cabin, and I don't notice it as much in there. But overall, both great boats. Sailing, I love sailing. You have to have the heart for it and want to do it. In terms of cabins, 2 or 3 cabins, if you think that you're going to have a lot of people, probably go with 3 cabins. But in reality is, if you have never gone on a lot of sailing trips before, what you're going to find is most of the time it's just going to be you and maybe one other person if you're a couple. Or you maybe will have people there for 2 or 3 days. People just have jobs, life, everything. Traveling to go sailing can just interfere with those, especially when you're in remote locations and destinations. It might take a day to get somewhere. So if I was looking at it, I'd probably, if I wasn't going to charter it, I'd probably go with the 2 cabins, and then you'd have storage in one other side. You can also just get the 3 cabins and use one as storage and just put something down for the beds. But if you are chartering it, typically what that program will look like is a 3 to 5 or 7 day trip, and you could have 2 couples or 3 couples with this. But like I said, with 3 couples, that one berth on here it just feels a little bit small. So it's going to get tight. You probably would struggle a little bit on a 7-day charter, but on a 2 or 3 day charter, probably no big deal. But it is nice to have the 3 cabins if you are going to put this into a charter or rental program. I believe this one actually was for a charter program, or is used in a charter program on the Great Lakes, and their program is one of those. I think you've got 3, 5, or 7 day options, and I think their most popular is like a 3-day option, where you basically get it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come back, do your thing, which is a really nice thing. It gets your toes wet into sailing if you want, and then have a good time. Overall, great sailing boat, easy to handle. Line management is very easy, as well as managing the lines. and the sailing aspects of the boat with all the winches and how the lines are run to the aft of the boat, and then with the boom furling sail as well as the roller furler. This thing is really going to be a breeze to manage, which is nice. And then you've got a little dodger up here in the front to kind of keep you out of the wind, especially on the Great Lakes. That is nice because you're going to have cooler environments in both the beginning of the year and the end of the year, and that dodger is going to help, as well as can kind of keep you out of the rain and stuff and keep the rain and wind out of the cockpit down in there, as well as keep it out of the cabin. And then you've got some ventilation, as you can see up here on the deck, for both the forward cabin as well as the cabin with the galley in there. And what's nice about that is if you've ever cooked in a boat, what's really nice a lot of times about catamarans is you have a very wide access hatch, as well as sometimes you got like sliding doors in the back, and you're above deck, so you're typically cooking above deck, and you can get a lot of breeze and flow through. With cooking in a monohull sailboat, you're going to be down below, and basically all that smoke, steam, flavors, smell, everything kind of circulates within the cabin. So having ventilation right above, that window is pretty much right above where the galley is really nice to let all that vapor and everything go out, because depending on the humidity and whatnot, you don't want to have that much steam, vapor, everything inside the cabin, as well as maybe you just don't want the smell, whatever it is. Depending on what kind of fish you're cooking, it smell like fish in the boat for a long time, which is not always the greatest thing. So having the ability to get a lot of ventilation down there is, I think, a key feature of any sailboat. But overall, nice, big, beamy sailboat. If you enjoy sailing, this is definitely something to check out. I would say it's probably most comfortable for 4 people. Any more than that, you're going to start to feel a little bit cramped, because there's just not a ton of, and when I say 4 people, I mean 4 people for a 3, 5, or 7-day cruise. If you want to have 20 people on here or whatever for a nighttime or a day cruise, you're going to be perfectly fine. I don't know what the actual rating is, but I would say 12 people on this boat, you wouldn't feel too crowded. You could have a few people sit up in the front. You could have a few people sit in the back. You could maybe have some people down in the cabin if you wanted. Or you could just have people on the dock or whatever it is. So, but probably 4 people for cruising, and 2 people is going to feel really comfortable, and 4 people is going to feel okay. 6 people is probably going to feel a little bit tight for this. But I started out boating with sailboats, so I always have an affinity and love for sailboats. One thing though, if you haven't sailed a lot before and you're thinking about getting this because you want to get into sailing or you want to go port to port, I think if you start to go on larger voyages, and what I would recommend anyone who's looking at a sailboat or thinking about it is, what is your use case? Are you going to go day sailing and just go out, have maybe a glass of wine, cocktail, maybe you're going to have something to eat, or you're going to have a non-alcoholic beverage, coffee, whatever you want to do. Just go out for 3-4 hours, sail around, have a good time, and come back. Or are you going to try and do overnight trips, and where is your geographic location, and how far away are those trips that you could go to? And I think what you have to think about is, are you okay spending a long time on a sailboat, and are you comfortable with that? If you've gone on a lot of long trips and long passages, what you'll find is that 7 knots is really great for a day. 7 knots per hour, or 7 knots speed is really great for a day. It's great for a couple hours. 7 knots for a week can be exhausting if you're trying to get from point A to point B. And that's where all these features in terms of roller furling at the front and a furling mast really come into play, because you will be adjusting your sail plan, sail area, and everything constantly if you're doing it for a week and trying to go to a specific location. You can't control the wind. You can only go the direction of the wind and where it's going to take you. You can obviously tack, do whatever you're going to need to, but being able to change your sail plan very quickly and your sail area when storms come up, and you're doing it for 5 days, 7 days, or whatever, you're going to make a lot of adjustments. So having things like the boom furler or roller furler at the mast, and the roller furler for the head sail or the jib sail or Jeanneau, whatever you have on there, is going to make a big difference, because you will inevitably come across storms over a time period of 3 to 7 to 5 days, and you're going to have to constantly make adjustments. So it's just something to be aware of. It is a cognitive load over time that adds up. And while it may seem like all you're doing is sailing and you're going to have so much time, you'd be surprised how many things kind of add up to the cognitive load of what you're doing every day. And don't get me wrong, there's tons of stuff to enjoy. But if I were recommending anyone looking at a sailboat, whether it be a monohull or a catamaran, know how you're going to use it and buy a boat for that use case. And if you're thinking you're going to be using a boat longer term for long passages, and you want to do that, I would recommend doing a charter for a week on a couple different boats. I would do a charter on a catamaran, I would do a charter on a monohull, and I would just do a self-charter so that you can take it wherever you want, because that's going to give you an idea of the experience, and are you really up for the cognitive load of long distance sailing and what that implies, and is your partner up for the cognitive load of long distance sailing and what that implies. Because no matter how much you like to sail, you do have to sleep, and you have to have somebody else that is comfortable with managing the sails and the sail plan no matter those conditions. But overall, this is a really cool boat. Just adding in some of my thoughts on sailing. If you're looking at one, I would definitely, if you are going to use it for more than just a day sailor, I would try and charter one of these out, and I would charter out probably a catamaran of a similar size, somewhere in the 40 to 48 foot range, and go from there. Now, what is nice about this being 410 versus 44 feet or 50 feet is that a lot of dockage is charged by the foot, and typically most marinas are going to let you overhang at least 1 foot, maybe 2. So this is 40 foot 6. That means that you can fit in a 40 foot slip and you're not paying extra fees for dockages. But also most marinas have the most dock sizes, and it seems like that 40 foot, 30 foot, and 35 foot range. So most likely you're going to be able to find a marina that's going to work for you. So thank you for watching this review of the Jeanneau Sun Odyssey 410 sailboat. We hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed the commentary on it. We will see you next time.